Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, and we have a cracker of a battle for you today. This is a Tier 10, although there are some Tier 8s in it. Standard battle here on the Two Brothers map. Yes, Two Brothers, and yes, there are at least two members of Doreen here's team who think that they're Flambass and are going to rush straight down the middle, and spoiler alert, it is not going to end well for them. Doreen himself is in the Tier 10 German destroyer, the George Hoffman, so this is a relatively new ship. I know I got mine in a loot box over the Christmas period. This ship is it's really a destroyer in name only. I mean, it isn't, it is a destroyer, but it's like that newer line of German destroyers that are really light cruisers that don't have citadels. It's armed with 6 150mm guns. I mean, it's a light cruiser armament. Doesn't have light cruiser stealth though. I mean, it's not great stealth, but it's not bad. 6.4 kilometers. For a destroyer, anything 6 kilometers or under is good. And this isn't that. I mean, it's not terrible. We're not talking French or Russian. But he is definitely the least stealthy destroyer in this battle. The guns on this thing, as with the other German heavy destroyers, are a bit of a mixed bag. I suppose the best way to describe them is, I mean, they're not bad, but they're definitely not for fighting other destroyers. They just don't have the rate of fire. These are, after all, light cruiser guns. If this was an actual light cruiser, a 7.4 second reload would be perfectly acceptable, but it's not really a light cruiser, despite appearances. And you will almost certainly, particularly because the high explosive shells are not very good, although the armor-piercing shells are, but if you do end up in a gunfight with any other destroyer that isn't a Shimakaze, you're probably going to come off worst in a gun duel. The torpedoes, however, are pretty good, mostly because of the fast reload, although we're not talking pan-European destroyer, insanely fast reload speeds. This isn't a Jaeger. But they have a 12-kilometer range, they do a decent amount of damage, and they're reasonably fast, and they only have an 80-second reload, which means that you can afford to do what Doreen here is doing and just dumping the torpedoes in the water, just on the off chance that they might run into something. Typically, this is not something you can really afford to do in something like a Japanese destroyer, which tend to have very, very hard-hitting and long-range torpedoes, but they pay for it with an insanely long reload. With one of those, you really have to try to make every single torpedo count. With the Japanese destroyer, you really do need to have a target visible and aim, or at least predict, where the torpedoes need to be. You can't really afford to just dump them in the water and cross your fingers. But with the Hoffman's 80-second reload, I mean, sure, why not? It's not like he had anything better to do with them at the time. Oh, that's interesting. So, I mean, not like he needed the heal, but upon spotting 3 targets, a commander skill just triggered, which tells us that he's using Gunter Lutyens as his captain. And that skill can trigger multiple times, by the way, so not an awful lot of use for him right now, but later on, that could come in handy. Scores are even at the moment. It's standard battle. The scores aren't going to change unless somebody gets into a cap circle or starts sinking ships. Torpedoes away at the Montana. Torpedo range is 12 kilometers, by the way, so the Montana is in range. Meanwhile, did you see? Look at what's going on. I've got no words. I don't know what the enemy Benson was doing there. I mean, he got a kill, but there was no way he was ever going to survive that. So the scores have changed. I mean, technically that does put the enemy team ahead, because a cruiser's worth more points than a destroyer, but in a game with as many battleships as this, I think the destroyer might have been a more useful ship to keep alive. Doreen's smoking up and opened fire on the enemy Montana, and he switched to the armor piercing because, well, these are 6-inch guns, and ooh, the Montana just took a big hit from something. I don't think it was Doreen, although he's doing reasonable damage here with the AP. That's not bad. Every 7.4 seconds, that's 2,000 or 3,000 damage. Doesn't look like the torpedoes are going to hit anything, but smoking up here was a very, very wise move, because that, of course, is Massachusetts, and the secondaries on that thing are no joke. So the Montana's managed to survive and get into cover behind the island. Doreen attempting to set a fire on the Massachusetts, and then switching straight back to the armor piercing, getting some more torpedoes away in the gap between the island, well, the small island and the big island. That's 10 torpedoes. The Hoffman has 2 quintuple torpedo launchers. And those torpedoes are going to hit the jackpot. And I don't necessarily mean Massachusetts and the Montana, who is desperately trying to survive, and the Massachusetts looks like he's about to beach himself. The team have just lost their submarine, by the way, or one of them. The Salmon's gone down. Have a look. I didn't even realise he was here until he suddenly sailed into view. The enemy Preußen. This is really weird because they obviously know that the Harakazi has sailed down the middle, and the Preußen has hydro. And yet he's playing Gotta Catch 'Em All. That's 6 torpedoes into the Preußen. And a double flood. Yeah, that's 10 torpedoes launched, 8 torpedoes hit. And that Preußen doesn't know what the hell happened. Although, I mean, he should have been expecting it. He's running away from a Harakazi. You'd think he would have had the hydro up. There's ships going down left, right and centre here. The enemy team have lost, well, they've lost the Preußen. They've lost 1 submarine, 2 destroyers. The friendly Iowa finished the Preußen off, although the team have just lost an Ohio. So they are actually ahead on points, thanks to the kills. And it looks like, with any luck, the Massachusetts is going to go down as well. Dareem trying to get a fire set, because that guy's damage control is on cooldown. And the Harakazi is shooting at him from the middle of the map too. And he's just been joined by the friendly Benson. Do you remember what I was saying about how valuable destroyers are with this particular matchup? I mean, there are 10 battleships. Oh, there's a fire. And, yep, there goes the Massachusetts. But 10 battleships in play in this game. And probably no radar. It's possible that the enemy Edinburgh has radar, but it's unlikely. Although you should always... If a cruiser has to choose between radar and smoke, just assume that they have radar until you see the smoke. Oof, Prince of Orange just got nuked by the enemy submarine over there. He's going to be an issue. And remember, Dareem's team don't have radar either. They did. They had a Baltimore until the enemy Benson suicided into it. Speaking of suicide, look what's just happened to the ships that went down the middle, whose names weren't Flambas, the Harakazi and the Benson. Both of them nuked right on top of each other by going down the middle and killed by battleships. The kind of ships that, in a match with no radar, they should 100% absolutely not be having any problems with. Well, to be totally fair, the Montana got the Harakazi, the Edinburgh got the Benson. And if you take a quick look at the minimap at the Edinburgh's last reported position, right next to the wreck of the Benson, I think it might have been about 2 or 3 kilometres away from him when he did it. I mean, you've got no business getting that close to something that's going to shoot at you when you're in a destroyer. But, well, you go down the middle. That's what you get. And the team have now just lost their Constellation, by the way. It's not looking too good for Dareem's team, although he has just managed to get himself the High Caliber Award. And he really does need to finish that submarine off before it... Well, it's basically spotting him for the Lion, and the Lion's guns are no joke when you're in a destroyer, even a destroyer that's cosplaying as a light cruiser, because that British 16-inch high explosive takes no prisoners. He's got him, and he's able to avoid the torpedoes, which were guiding on him. Still spotted, of course, and here comes the Lion. Might be a good idea to slam on the brakes and pop the smoke screen, and that is, of course, exactly what he's doing. Small element of luck here, and I'm not talking about the torpedoes. He knew exactly what he was doing with those. But the only reason the Lion is still spotted is because he chose to blind fire into the smoke, because of course he did go undetected the second that Dareem smoked up, because Dareem was the one spotting him. But you fire your guns, you stay spotted for the next 20 seconds, which hopefully... Oh, not quite. The Lion does, of course, get a very, very good heal, and, well, he would have been stupid to not use it under those circumstances after eating all of those torpedoes, and probably 1 6-inch gun salvo away from getting himself sunk. So the Lion is still alive and kicking. Unfortunately, the team's last submarine has just gone down. They're fighting 4 against 6. The points are no longer in their favour. Dareem's probably going to have to poke out of the smoke in order to spot the Lion, and it's just as well his Hydro was running, because the Shimakaze has just popped into Hydro range. Okay, torpedoes away against the Lion. Lion got spotted anyway because he fired his guns, so he doesn't need to pop out of the smoke. The Shimakaze's turn to give broadside, which means he's dumping torpedoes, although he has to know the torpedoes are going to be spotted since he's Hydroed, and it's German Hydro. It's very, very good. However, the Shimakaze has 3 torpedo launchers, and that's only 2 sets of torpedoes. Which means, okay, good news, the line has gone down, the torpedoes found him. But with the hydro expired, he can't afford to lurk around inside the smoke screen because he's going to get no warning of the third set of torpedoes. So he has to take the Shimakaze on in a gunfight. Fortunately, it is a Shimakaze. Its guns aren't great. And he is the victor in that engagement. And there's the Edinburgh. Oof, and that one hurt. And of course, there's the third set of torpedoes as well. So actually, he's managed to even the scores by killing the Shimakaze and the Lion. Well, I mean, not quite, but as near as. But he certainly evened the kills. He now needs to go undetected before that Edinburgh smacks him again. And he has gone undetected, but that didn't stop the Edinburgh from smacking him again anyway. Now, here's what he doesn't know. Is that a radar Edinburgh or a smoke Edinburgh? I don't remember seeing any direct evidence of the Edinburgh deploying a smoke screen. I mean, there have been a lot of smoke screens down there at the southern end of the channel, but that could have been the Benson or the Harakaze. However, since the Edinburgh is pursuing him, and he has gone undetected, and he's definitely inside radar range, the fact that the Edinburgh hasn't radared him probably means that it's a smoke Edinburgh. So Dareem's about to put that theory to the test, and the Edinburgh looks like he's just seen his torpedoes and he's given up the chase. So Dareem opens up just a little bit too early because the Edinburgh can still see him and the guns are pointing this way, but there goes the smoke. He does take another hit and it very nearly finishes him, but oh, hello Mr. Edinburgh, that's a nice fat juicy broadside you've got. Would be a real shame if somebody would have started scoring citadels on it with 6-inch armour piercing shells. Edinburgh's not going to stay detected forever, of course, and he is getting shot at by the Iowa as well, so if he has any sense, he's going to cease fire and try to go undetected. Or maybe pop a smoke screen if he has one. And he's gone. Right. Dareem does not have an awful lot of health left to play with. The kills are even, the scores are more or less even. The Edinburgh's on low health, but he's gotten away, and the Edinburgh does have a very, very good heal as well. Yeah, and Dareem does not. I mean, he doesn't have a heal at all. Huh. So there's the Montana. He's managed to recover some health. The Edinburgh does have torpedoes as well, though. Honestly, I would be running hydro now, just in case. Although Dareem seems confident. I can't even remember what the range of the Edinburgh's torpedoes is. It may be 10 kilometres. He was definitely in range. Then again, they would take the time to get here. He's leaving the smoke screen now. I guess he's going to find out one way or the other. I think if the Edinburgh had launched torpedoes, you would be seeing them by now. And they probably wouldn't have had time to reach the smoke screen. So it's all good. In fact, yep, there they are. Oh, he left those late. And there's a smoke screen. Okay, so the Edinburgh definitely, I mean, we were fairly sure, but we know for 100% that he definitely doesn't have radar. And of course, even though Dareem started this battle as the least stealthy destroyer in play, he's going to end the battle as the most stealthy ship remaining. So it's not going to help him see through the smoke screen, but the Hydra that he's running might. Now, things are looking fairly good. I mean, wow. I was about to say things are looking fairly good. The Eye was taking fire, but the Amagi and the Thunderer still have a ton of health. The Montana just slapped the living shit out of an almost full health Thunderer. A 20,000 hit point Montana just obliterated a 60,000 hit point Thunderer. Oh, well, there's a spot of good news. The Edinburgh's gone down. Dareem was saying to the Iowa, just hold your horses, I'll go in and spot him for you. He's going to hydro him, but, well, I guess the Iowa didn't need the help. He's killed the Edinburgh anyway, so it's still 3-on-3. That Hindenburg's going to be a problem, though, because his hydro's every bit as good as Dareem's. And his 8-inch high explosive shells are no joke either. He's trying to focus the Iowa down before the Iowa can get into cover. I mean, the Iowa's doing the right thing. He's trying to get the island between himself and the Hindenburg, but the Hindenburg's high explosive DPM is off the charts. Yep, he's got the Iowa. Right, it's 3-on-2. And as far as Dareem's concerned, it's 3-on-1 because the Amagi might as well be on a different map for all the good he's going to be doing up there. I mean, you know, he's defending the cap circle. Dareem's sneaking off a couple of armor-piercing shells and scoring a citadel for his trouble as he scoots into the gap between the two islands here and goes undetected again. Just a little bit too late to take advantage of the smoke screen left by the Enemy Edinburgh, though. Oh, hello, torpedoes. But, well, then again, you know, the Hindenburg has hydro that's every bit as good as the Hoffmans, so none of those hit. Oh, no, there's a spot of good news. I did say that, you know, he doesn't have a heal, but of course he does. He just has to spot 3 ships, and every time he does, he gets a heal. Thanks to having Gunter Leuchens as his captain. But that much health against the Hindenburg is... it's not even a margin of error. That thing's guns will absolutely wreck a destroyer of any description, regardless of how much health it has. He's in a really tricky spot here now, though, but he is spotting the Hindenburg, and look at where the Yamagi's positioned himself. Yep. The Yamagi just sailed right up to the northern end of the channel, launched those 16-inch armor-piercing shells right down the middle, straight at the only target he can actually shoot at, and slapped 7 different shades of shit out of the Hindenburg, and that's fantastic news. I mean, obviously, but it's not only equalise the kills. I can't overemphasise how crucial the Yamagi's clutch kill on the Hindenburg was, because that thing was not only in the cap circle, as is the Montana at the moment, and therefore preventing Dream from taking this cap, but it was closing in with 6-kilometre range hydro. Oh, the Montana's left the cap circle. Dream... he'll have his hydro back up again in a couple of seconds, but he doesn't need to use it because the Hindenburg never got to within 6 kilometres, which is its torpedo range, so he doesn't have to worry about Hindenburg torpedoes. He's popped the hydro again anyway because he wants to know where that Montana is. All he knows is he's not in the cap circle, and he's got no idea where the Kansas is either. Although the Kansas isn't... well, I'm going to say the Kansas isn't much of a threat, and ordinarily it isn't, but, well, you don't have an awful lot of health, and sometimes even the Kansas hits what it's shooting at. Popping out of the smoke again, trying to acquire the Montana visually. There he is. Oh, he's inside torpedo range. Backing up into the smoke again. Oh, he miscalculated there, didn't he? He was good. Oh! Yeah, he didn't look at the smoke screen timer. Oh, shit, you're in trouble now. He was backing up into the smoke to take that shot. He didn't realise the smoke was expiring. Oh, now you're in trouble. Maybe one of those torpedoes will hit the Montana before he reloads. He's turning into it. It is. It's going to hit him. Is he going to reload? Please don't reload. The secondary is firing. He's got him. Oh, here it comes. Oh. Less than 300 hit points. And that puts them 150 points ahead. With 2.5 minutes to go, no sign of the Kansas. Oh, wait, no, the Kansas was just spotted, well, right up there to the northeast. I suppose that kind of makes sense. He was heading for Dream's cap circle. And the Kansas is so slow that you don't turn around and relocate in that thing anytime fast. Here's the thing. It's going to take Dream just slightly less than 2.5 minutes to win by capping. But there's only 2 minutes of the battle left, so he's not going to win by capping, but, well, it doesn't matter. There's the Kansas. He doesn't need to win by capping. I mean, the Kansas is now in Dream's cap circle, but he got there way too late. There's no way the Kansas is going to win by capping either. But Dream doesn't need to. He's 150 points ahead. He just needs to stay alive, and there's no way the Kansas is coming down here to kill him. So by the time the match ends... even if the Yamagi decides he wants to go and take a shot at the Kansas and gets himself killed in the process, it isn't going to make any difference because it's not going to change the scores enough for the Kansas to sneak ahead on points. So nobody's winning by capping. And as long as Dream doesn't do anything incredibly stupid, like charge up through the central channel there and get himself killed by the Kansas, there's no way they can lose this. Ooh, the Kansas just landed some big hits on the Yamagi. The Yamagi's going for it, but, I mean, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The Yamagi's just trying to farm a bit more damage off the Kansas before the match ends. And maybe he'll kill him, maybe he won't, maybe the Kansas will kill him. Doesn't make any difference, because even if the Yamagi goes down and the Kansas stays alive, it isn't going to make enough of a difference to the points to put the Kansas ahead. So all that remains is to wait out the rest of the timer, and there's less than a minute to go, and see who's going to come out on top between the Kansas and the Yamagi. I mean, the Kansas has the health advantage, and he's got more guns. But the Amagi's guns are accurate. It does tend to actually hit what it shoots at. Although I'm not seeing any evidence of that this far. How much time do we have left? 16 seconds. I don't think there's even time for these guys. And the Kansas has gone undetected, so... The Amagi had his chance to sink him, or get sunk by him, but, well, that ship has now also sailed. The match is about to end, and with a clear, nearly 200-point lead, that is good enough for Dareem in the George Hoffman. Best game Dareem's ever had, apparently. 305,000 damage, almost. Some beautiful torpedo hits. I mean, that Preußen. And Dareem wasn't even aiming the torpedoes at him. He just sailed right into them. Look at that. I'm actually surprised that's not a 3,000 base experience game. But it's still good enough to put him well clear at the top of the table with 2,680 damage done. How much damage did his torpedo? 127,000 damage from 14 torpedo hits. I mean, I've had games in ships where I've scored more torpedo hits than that, but it's usually the Jaeger. I've scored 30 torpedo hits in a game with a Jaeger, and I still haven't broken 200,000 damage because the torpedoes they're kind of weak and pitiful, but holy crap, that was good. So that was Dareem and the George Hoffman, German Tier 10, extremely heavy destroyer, cosplaying as a light cruiser. One hell of a battle, extremely well done, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.